Before we begin, I need to say something important. Everything you're about to hear today is general information only. It is not personal financial advice. Your situation is unique. Your needs are different from everyone else's. So please, before you make any decisions about your money or your retirement, speak with a licensed financial advisor who can look at your specific circumstances. Now, let's talk about something that keeps you awake at night. The real costs of retirement. Not the glossy brochure version. Not the happy couple walking on the beach at sunset. The actual cost. The hidden expenses. The things no one warned you about when you were busy working, raising kids, paying off the mortgage. I've spent decades helping Australians navigate their retirement years, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Almost everyone underestimates what retirement actually costs. Not by a little bit, by a lot. And it's not your fault. Society tells you to save a certain amount. The government sets minimums for superannuation. Financial planners throw around rules of thumb. But none of that captures the full picture of what your life will actually look like when you stop working. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to talk about the real costs, the uncomfortable truths, the expenses that creep up on you when you're least expecting them. And more importantly, we're going to talk about what you can do about it. Because here's what I believe. Knowledge is power. Understanding the real cost of retirement doesn't have to be frightening. It can be empowering. It can help you make better decisions today so that tomorrow feels less uncertain. I know you're worried. I know you lie awake wondering if you've saved enough. I know you look at your superannuation balance and feel a knot in your stomach. That feeling? It's completely normal. You're not alone in this. Thousands of Australians in their 50s, 60s, and 70s are asking themselves the exact same questions right now. Will I have enough? What if I live longer than I expect? What if something goes wrong? What if inflation keeps eating away at my savings? These are good questions, important questions, and today we're going to answer them together. So take a deep breath, pour yourself a cup of tea, get comfortable, because we're about to go on a journey through the real landscape of retirement costs in Australia. And by the end of our time together, you're going to have a much clearer picture of what lies ahead. Let's start with a bit of history. The Australian context. Let me take you back a few decades. Back to the Australia of the 1970s and 80s. If you were retiring back then, life looked very different. For one thing, the age pension was genuinely enough to live on. Not luxuriously, mind you, but enough. A modest home, food on the table, the occasional holiday to visit family. Healthcare was simpler. Bulk billing was common. Medications were cheaper. You didn't need private health insurance to feel safe. Housing was affordable. Many of you bought your first home for what seems like pocket change today. $20,000, $30,000, maybe $50,000 if you were in a nice suburb. And here's the big one. You didn't carry debt into retirement. That simply wasn't done. You paid off your mortgage in your working years. You bought things with cash, or you didn't buy them at all. The idea of retiring with a mortgage hanging over your head, that was almost unheard of. Interest rates were high, yes, but so were returns on safe investments. You could put money in a term deposit at the bank and earn 8, 9, 10% interest, sometimes more. That was real income you could rely on. The cost of living was lower relative to wages. A dollar went further. Groceries, electricity, rates, insurance, all of it took up a smaller slice of your income. And here's something else that's changed. Family structures were different. Extended families often lived closer together. If you needed help, your kids were nearby. If you needed care as you got older, families stepped in. It wasn't perfect, but there was a support network that didn't come with a price tag. Now, let's fast forward to today, the Australia of 2025. Everything has changed. The age pension alone is not enough for most people to live comfortably. It covers the basics, yes, but comfortable? That's a different story. Healthcare costs have exploded. Private health insurance is almost essential if you want to avoid long public hospital waiting lists. And those premiums, they go up every single year. Gap payments at the doctor, specialists who don't bulk bill, dental work that costs thousands, medications that aren't fully covered by the PBS, housing? Don't even get me started. Many Australians approaching retirement still have a mortgage. Some are still paying rent. Property prices have gone through the roof, and if you need to downsize or move, you're facing a market that's almost unrecognizable from the one you entered decades ago. Interest rates on savings are at historic lows. You're lucky to get 3 or 4% on a term deposit these days. And after tax and inflation, you're going backwards. The cost of living has skyrocketed. Electricity bills that make you gasp. Council rates that seem to double every few years. Insurance premiums that climb relentlessly. And family structures? Well, your kids might be living interstate or overseas. They've got their own mortgages, their own struggles. The assumption that they'll be nearby to help? That's no longer a given. This is the new reality of retirement in Australia. And it's harder, much harder than it was for previous generations. But here's what I want you to understand. Harder doesn't mean impossible. It means you need to be more informed, more strategic, more prepared. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Because once you understand the real costs, once you see them clearly, you can plan for them. You can take action. You can adjust your strategy. So let's dive into the details. The Deep Dive, Part 1, the technical details. Let me break down the real costs of retirement into categories. Because retirement isn't just one big expense. It's a collection of ongoing costs, some obvious, some hidden. Let's start with the obvious ones. Basic living expenses. Food, utilities, rates, insurance, transport, the day-to-day costs of simply existing. Now, many people assume these costs will go down in retirement. After all, you're not commuting to work anymore, you're not buying work clothes, you're not grabbing coffee on the go every morning. And yes, some costs do decrease, but others increase. You're home more often, so your electricity and gas bills go up. You're not rushing through a quick dinner after work. You're actually cooking, actually eating well, and that costs more. You've got more time to maintain your home, but you're also noticing all the things that need fixing. The gutters, the paint, the garden, and you might need to pay someone to do the heavy lifting you used to do yourself. Transport costs might not disappear either. Yes, you're not driving to work, but you're driving to medical appointments, to visit family, to stay connected with friends, to do all the things you finally have time for. And here's something people forget. You're replacing your car more often now. You're putting years on it, and when it needs replacing, that's a massive expense. Registration, insurance, maintenance, fuel, it all adds up. Current estimates suggest a single retiree needs somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 per year for a modest lifestyle. A couple needs somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000. But that's modest. That's not comfortable. That's getting by. For a comfortable retirement, you're looking at closer to $50,000 for a single person and $70,000 for a couple. And those figures, they're just for basic living. They don't include the big stuff we're about to discuss. Healthcare. This is the big one, the cost that catches almost everyone off guard. When you're young and healthy, healthcare is an afterthought. A bulk billed GP visit here, a prescription there, maybe a pair of glasses every few years. But as you age, Healthcare moves from the background to the foreground of your budget. Private health insurance becomes essential, not optional, essential. Because if you need a hip replacement, a heart procedure, cataract surgery, anything significant, the public system might make you wait months or even years. And that's if you can wait. Some conditions don't give you that luxury. So you maintain your private cover, and every year the premiums increase. On average, they rise faster than inflation, sometimes much faster. Then there's the gap payments. Even with private insurance, you pay gaps. Specialists charge above the schedule fee. You're out of pocket for hundreds, sometimes thousands. Dental work isn't covered by Medicare. A crown costs well over $1,000. Implants? You're looking at several $1,000s per tooth. Medications add up. Even with the pharmaceutical benefit scheme, you're paying co-payments. If you're on multiple medications, that's hundreds of dollars per year at minimum. Physiotherapy, podiatry, hearing aids, glasses, mobility aids. All of these become necessary as you age, and most aren't fully covered by insurance or government subsidies. And then there's aged care. This is the elephant in the room, the cost nobody wants to think about. If you need home care services, you might access government-subsidized packages, but there are waiting lists and gaps and costs you pay yourself. If you need residential aged care, you're looking at accommodation deposits that can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, plus daily fees, plus means-tested care fees if you have assets above certain thresholds. Healthcare in retirement can easily cost you tens of thousands per year, and in your later years, potentially hundreds of thousands in total. Housing. For many Australians, the family home is their biggest asset. It's also their biggest source of security. But it comes with costs, maintenance, repairs, upgrades to make the home more age-appropriate, installing grab rails, modifying bathrooms, improving access, making the home safer as mobility becomes an issue. Then there's the question of whether you stay or downsize. If you stay, you're maintaining a larger home than you need. Higher rates, higher insurance, higher utilities, more garden to maintain. If you downsize, you face transaction costs, real estate fees, stamp duty in some cases, moving costs, the emotional cost of leaving a home full of memories. And don't assume downsizing always frees up cash. In some markets, particularly in sought-after areas close to services, smaller homes or apartments cost almost as much as larger family homes. If you're renting, you face a different challenge entirely. Rents keep rising, and as a retiree on a fixed income, you're vulnerable. You have no security, no control, no equity building. This is becoming more common in Australia. More people are entering retirement without owning their home, and it's genuinely frightening. The rent assistance provided by Centrelink helps, but it doesn't come close to covering the gap between what you receive and what landlords charge. The inflation factor. Here's something most people don't factor in properly: the eroding effect of inflation over a long retirement. Let's say you retire at 65. If you're healthy, you could easily live another 25 or 30 years. Some of you will live into your 90s or beyond. That's 3 decades of inflation eating away at your purchasing power. Even at a relatively modest inflation rate, the cost of living doubles roughly every 20 years. So what costs you $50,000 today might cost you $70,000 in 10 years and $100,000 in 20 years. Your superannuation balance might look adequate today, but in 15 years, 20 years, it might not stretch as far as you think. This is why people run out of money in their 80s and 90s, not because they were careless, but because they didn't fully account for decades of inflation.
The age pension does increase with indexation, but it doesn't keep pace with actual cost of living increases in all areas, particularly in healthcare and housing. Lifestyle costs. Now let's talk about the costs that aren't about survival. They're about living. You didn't work for 40 years just to sit at home and count your pennies. You want to enjoy this phase of life. You want to travel, see your grandchildren, pursue hobbies, join clubs, go out for dinner, attend events. All of that costs money. And here's the catch. The early years of retirement are when you're most active, most energetic, most able to do the things you've been dreaming about. But it's also when you're most likely to spend more than you planned. People often have a bucket list, places to see, things to do, and they spend generously in those first 5 or 10 years. That's wonderful. That's what retirement is for. But it needs to be balanced against the reality that you might live another 20 or 30 years after that initial burst of activity. The unexpected costs. Finally, we need to talk about the things you can't predict. Adult children who need financial help, a grandchild's education you want to contribute to, a car accident, a house that needs major repairs after a storm, a family emergency. Life doesn't stop throwing curveballs just because you've retired. And when you're on a fixed income, those curveballs hurt more. You don't have the option of working extra hours to cover an unexpected bill. You don't have a bonus coming. You're drawing from a finite pool of resources. So you need buffers, contingencies, money set aside for the things you can't foresee. This is the technical reality of retirement costs in Australia. It's complex, it's challenging, and it's more expensive than most people realize. But understanding it is the first step toward managing it. The Deep Dive Part 2. Meet Bruce and Jenny. Let me introduce you to Bruce and Jenny. They're not real people, but they could be. They represent thousands of Australian couples navigating retirement right now. Bruce is 67. Jenny is 65. They retired last year. Bruce worked in trades for 40 years. Jenny worked part-time in retail and administration, taking years off to raise their 2 kids. They own their home in a regional city, 3 bedrooms, quarter-acre block. Paid off the mortgage 5 years ago. It's worth about $600,000 in today's market. Their superannuation? Bruce has $400,000. Jenny has $150,000. Combined, they've got $550,000 in super, plus about $30,000 in savings. On paper, they look okay. Not wealthy, but okay. They're both eligible for a part-age pension because their assets are above the threshold for a full pension, but below the cutoff point. So let's see how their retirement actually looks. Their target is to spend about $60,000 per year. That's the comfortable retirement figure for a couple. They're receiving a combined part pension of about $15,000 per year. That leaves them needing to draw $45,000 from their superannuation. Now, $45,000 doesn't sound like much when you have $550,000 saved. That's less than 10% per year. But here's what happens. In year 1, they draw $45,000. Their super balance drops to $505,000. Their super earns some investment returns, let's say 5%. That adds about $25,000. But remember, they're also paying fees. Management fees, administration fees, maybe 2%. That's $11,000 in fees. So they earn 25, lose 11, net $14,000 in growth. They started at $550, drew out 45, earned 14, they're now at $519,000. They've gone backwards. Year 2, same thing. Draw 45, earn returns minus fees. They're down to about $490. Year 3, $460. You see the pattern. And remember, inflation is pushing up their costs. In 5 years, they don't need $45,000 anymore, they need $50,000, then $55,000, then $60,000. By their mid-70s, Bruce and Jenny are drawing down their super faster than it's growing. By their early 80s, they've drawn down most of it. They're increasingly reliant on the age pension. And if either of them needs aged care, that's when the real strain hits. Now, let's look at some specific situations Bruce and Jenny face. Year 3, the healthcare shock. Bruce needs a knee replacement. He's been putting it off, but the pain is too much. He can't wait 2 years on the public list. He goes private. Even with insurance, the gap payments total $8,000. Between the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, the hospital, the physiotherapy afterwards. That's $8,000 that wasn't in the budget. They pull it from their savings buffer. But now that buffer is thinner. Year 5, the car replacement. Their car is 18 years old. It's on its last legs. They need something reliable. They don't want to buy new, but even a good second-hand car costs $30,000. They could take it from Super, but that accelerates the drawdown. So they finance part of it. Now they have car repayments in retirement, something they swore they'd never do. Year 7, Jenny's mother. Jenny's mother, age 90, needs to move into residential aged care. She doesn't have enough assets to cover the accommodation deposit. The family needs to contribute. Jenny and her sister split the cost. That's $50,000 from Jenny and Bruce. $50,000. Gone in a moment. Their super balance, which was already declining, takes a massive hit. Year 10, the home maintenance. The roof is leaking. The hot water system dies. The oven needs replacing. All in the same year. $10,000 in repairs and replacements. They can't defer these things. They need a functioning home. Year 12, downsizing decision. Bruce and Jenny make the tough call to downsize. The family home is too much. The garden is overwhelming. The stairs are becoming difficult. They sell for $650,000. After agent fees and costs, they net about $620,000. They buy a 2-bedroom unit closer to town for $450,000. That frees up $170,000. It's a windfall, but it's also bittersweet. They're leaving the home where they raised their children. The extra money helps. It takes pressure off their super, but it's a one-time boost, not a permanent solution. Year 15, the long stretch. Bruce and Jenny are now in their early 80s. Bruce is slowing down. His health is declining. More doctor visits, more medications, more help needed around the home. Jenny is his primary carer, but she's struggling too. They need home care services, cleaning, gardening, personal care for Bruce a few times a week. Even with government subsidies, they're paying several $100s a week out of pocket. Their super is nearly gone. They're living primarily on the age pension now, plus some income from the remaining super balance. It's tight, very tight. They're making choices. Skip the restaurant meals. Delay the car service. Don't visit the kids interstate as often. This is the reality. Bruce and Jenny did everything reasonably right. They saved, they paid off their home, they were careful. But retirement is long, costs are high, and unexpected things happen. Now, let's contrast this with another scenario. Imagine Bruce and Jenny had done things slightly differently. What if they'd salary sacrificed more aggressively in their 50s and early 60s? What if they'd built their super balances to $700,000 instead of $550,000? That extra $150,000 makes an enormous difference. It provides a bigger buffer. It means their drawdowns don't deplete the capital as quickly. It means they can handle the unexpected costs without panic. Or what if they downsized earlier, say at 65 instead of 77? They could have banked that extra equity while they were still young enough to enjoy it. They could have used it to top up their super, to create a better financial cushion. Or what if they'd gotten proper financial advice early in retirement? A good advisor might have structured their superannuation withdrawals more tax effectively, might have suggested an account-based pension with different investment options, might have helped them balance growth and stability better. Small differences in planning create massive differences in outcomes over a 20 or 30-year retirement. This is why understanding the real costs matters so much. Because Bruce and Jenny's story doesn't have to end with financial stress. With the right knowledge and the right actions, it can be different. The solutions and strategies. So what can you do? How do you prepare for the real costs of retirement? How do you avoid Bruce and Jenny's mistakes and set yourself up for a more secure future? Let me give you some practical strategies, things you can start doing today. Strategy 1. Get brutally honest about your numbers. Most people have a vague idea of their financial position. They know roughly what's in their super, roughly what they spent. Roughly isn't good enough. You need precision. Sit down and calculate exactly what you have. Every super account, every savings account, every investment, the value of your home. Then calculate exactly what you spend, not what you think you spend, what you actually spend. Go through your bank statements for the last 6 months. Categorize every expense: food, utilities, insurance, entertainment, medical, everything. Add it up. Be honest. Don't fudge the numbers to make yourself feel better. Once you know where you actually stand, you can make informed decisions. Strategy 2. Understand the age pension rules. The age pension is complex. It's means tested, it's asset tested, it's income tested. Many people don't understand how it works, and they leave money on the table. Or worse, they structure their finances in ways that accidentally disqualify them from benefits they're entitled to. The age pension can provide somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 per year for a couple. That's significant income. Understanding the thresholds matters. Your family home doesn't count towards the assets test, but investment properties do. Super does once you're a pension age. Savings accounts do. If you're close to the thresholds, small changes in how you structure your assets can make a big difference to your entitlements. This is complicated stuff. You might need professional advice, but it's worth it. Strategy 3. Maximize your super in the years before retirement. If you're 50 or 55 and still working, you have a golden opportunity. These final working years are when you can really supercharge your super balance. Concessional contributions are taxed at 15% inside super instead of at your marginal tax rate. If you're earning good money, that's a massive tax saving. The annual concessional cap is currently around $27,500. That includes your employer contributions. If your employer is putting in, say, $12,000 per year, you can salary sacrifice another $15,000 and stay within the cap. Do that for 10 years while you're in your 50s and early 60s, and you can add $150,000 or more to your balance. That could be the difference between running out of money at 85 and living comfortably into your 90s. There are also catch-up provisions if you haven't used your full cap in previous years. These rules can be complex, but they're worth exploring. And don't forget about after-tax contributions, non-concessional contributions. These don't give you a tax deduction going in, but they can still be useful for getting more money into the tax-friendly super environment. Strategy 4. Delay retirement if you can. I know. You're tired, you're ready to stop working. But every extra year you work makes a huge difference. First, you're not drawing down your super. It's still growing. Second, you're still contributing to it, building the balance. Third, you're delaying the start of your drawdown phase, which means your money have to last fewer years. Work 1 extra year, and you might add 2 years to how long your money lasts. Work 3 extra years, and you could add 5 or 6 years. If you can't work full-time, consider part-time, even a couple of days a week, even casual work. Any income reduces how much you need to draw from super. And there's a bonus. The age pension has a work bonus scheme. You can earn some income without it affecting your pension entitlements. Strategy 5. Downsize strategically. If you own your home and it's larger than you need, downsizing can free up significant capital. But timing matters, and so does how you use the proceeds. If you downsize and put the extra money into super using the downsizer contribution rules, you can get up to $300,000 per person into super. That's potentially $600,000 for a couple. Getting that money into super means it's in a tax-advantaged environment, and it doesn't count towards the age pension assets test in the same way. But don't downsize too early. Make sure you're moving to a home that will suit you in your 70s and 80s, not just your 60s. And don't blow the windfall. Resist the temptation to go on a spending spree. Invest it wisely. Strategy 6. Manage healthcare costs proactively. Private health insurance is essential, but that doesn't mean you have to pay for coverage you don't need. Review your policy every year. Are you paying for extras you never use? Obstetrics cover when you're 70? Adjust your cover to match your actual needs. But don't drop hospital cover. That's the one you absolutely need. Shop around. Loyalty doesn't pay in the insurance game. Switching providers can save you thousands. And look after your health. I know that sounds obvious, but it's the best investment you can make. Stay active, eat well, manage chronic conditions properly. Preventative care is far cheaper than crisis care. And strategy 7, create multiple income streams. Don't rely solely on super and the age pension. Diversify your income. Maybe that's keeping a small investment property. Maybe it's shares that pay dividends. Maybe it's a part-time consulting gig using your decades of experience. Multiple streams give you flexibility and security. If one stream dries up or underperforms, you have others to fall back on. Strategy 8. Plan for longevity. Assume you're going to live longer than you expect. If you're 65 and healthy, there's a decent chance you'll live into your 90s. Plan for 95. Financially, that might seem pessimistic, but it's realistic. Better to have money left over than to run out at 85 and face 15 years of poverty. This means being conservative with your withdrawal rates. It means not spending all the equity from your home downsize. It means leaving a buffer. Strategy 9. Get professional advice. I can't stress this enough. A good financial advisor can save you tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands, over the course of your retirement. They can help you structure your super withdrawals tax effectively. They can advise on age pension strategies. They can create an investment strategy that balances growth and security. They can help you avoid costly mistakes. Yes, advice costs money, but it's an investment that pays for itself many times over. Look for an advisor who is licensed, who has experience with retirees, and who works on a fee-for-service basis rather than commissions. And make sure you understand what they're recommending and why. Don't just hand over control and hope for the best. Strategy 10. Stay flexible. Your retirement plan isn't set in stone. Life changes, markets change, your health changes, your needs change. Review your situation every year. Are you spending more than you planned? Less? Do you need to adjust? Are your investments performing as expected? Do you need to rebalance? Is your health insurance still appropriate? Is your living situation still working? Flexibility is your friend. Rigidity is your enemy. Be willing to adapt. Be willing to course correct. Strategy 11. Have the conversation with your partner. If you're in a relationship, you and your partner need to be on the same page financially. Money is one of the biggest sources of stress in retirement. Different spending habits, different priorities, different risk tolerances. Talk about it, openly, honestly. What's important to each of you? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are your non-negotiables? Create a shared vision for retirement and a shared plan to achieve it. Strategy 12. Don't forget about estate planning. None of us want to think about dying, but it's a reality. Make sure you have a will. Make sure it's up to date. Consider powers of attorney, both financial and medical. Who will make decisions for you if you can't? Think about how your super death benefits are structured. Do you have binding nominations? Do your beneficiaries know what to expect? Estate planning isn't just about death. It's about protecting yourself and your loved ones if something goes wrong. These strategies aren't complicated, but they require action. Not someday, not when you get around to it, now. Because the longer you wait, the fewer options you have. The conclusion, your third act. We've covered a lot today. We've talked about the real costs of retirement, the hidden expenses, the challenges facing Australian retirees in the current economic environment. We've walked through Bruce and Jenny's story, seen how even careful people can struggle. And we've discussed strategies, actions you can take to prepare yourself better. But I want to end on a different note, because retirement isn't just about money. Yes, money matters. Financial security matters. Having enough to live comfortably without constant stress matters. But retirement is also about something bigger. It's about the third act of your life. You've had your first act, childhood, education, finding your way in the world. You've had your second act, career, family, building, contributing, working. Now comes the third act. And here's what I want you to understand. The third act can be the best act. This is your time. Time to pursue the things you never had time for. Time to deepen relationships. Time to give back. Time to simply be, without the constant pressure of deadlines and obligations. But you can only enjoy this time if you're not consumed by financial worry. That's why we've spent all this time today talking about money. Not because money is the point, but because money is the foundation that allows you to actually enjoy this phase of life. Think about what you want your third act to look like. Maybe it's travel, seeing the parts of Australia you've never visited, taking that trip overseas you've always dreamed about. Maybe it's family, being present for your grandchildren, building memories, passing on your wisdom and your stories. Maybe it's hobbies, finally learning to play that instrument, taking up painting, joining a club, volunteering for a cause you care about. Maybe it's simply peace, a quiet life, a garden, good books, time with your partner, watching the sunset without rushing off to the next thing. Whatever it is, you deserve it. You've worked hard, you've contributed, you've paid your taxes, you've raised your family, you've done your bit. Now it's your turn. But claiming that life requires preparation. It requires being honest about the costs, being strategic about your resources, being willing to seek help when you need it. It requires making some hard decisions, maybe working a bit longer than you'd like, maybe downsizing, maybe cutting back in some areas so you can afford the things that truly matter to you. But it's worth it, because the alternative is spending your retirement years stressed, worried, constantly looking at your bank balance with dread. And that's no way to live. So here's my challenge to you. Don't put this off. Don't close this audio file, think that was interesting, and then do nothing. Take one action today. Just one. Maybe it's checking your super balance. Maybe it's calculating your actual expenses. Maybe it's booking an appointment with a financial advisor. Maybe it's having that conversation with your partner. One action. Then tomorrow, take another. And the day after that, another. Small steps compound, just like interest, just like your super balance when you're contributing regularly. Small actions, repeated consistently, create massive change over time. You have more control over your retirement than you think. You're not helpless. You're not at the mercy of forces beyond your control. Yes, the economic environment is challenging. Yes, costs are high. Yes, it's harder than it used to be. But you can do this. You can create a retirement that's financially secure and personally fulfilling. Thousands of Australians are doing it right now, and you can too. One more thing before we finish. Be kind to yourself. If you've made mistakes in the past, that's okay. We all have. If you haven't saved as much as you wish you had, that's okay. You can't change the past. All you can do is start from where you are today and move forward. Self-criticism doesn't help. Regret doesn't help. Shame doesn't help. Action helps. Compassion helps. Giving yourself credit for the things you have done right helps. You're here, you're listening, you're trying to educate yourself and make better decisions. That counts for something. So take a deep breath. Know that you're not alone in this journey. Know that there are resources available, people who can help, strategies that work. Know that your third act can be beautiful, rich, meaningful.
The real cost of retirement? Yes, it's higher than most people realize. But the real value of retirement? The freedom, the time, the opportunity to live life on your terms? That's priceless. And it's within your reach. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Before you go, I need to remind you one more time. Everything we've discussed is general information only. It is not personal financial advice tailored to your specific situation. Your circumstances are unique. Your needs are changing.